Welcome, everyone, to this webinar of the Wagner Society of Northern California. Yours truly, Terry Stewart, the president. And Emma is in the background, our wonderful webinar engineer. She's pushing all the buttons and the controls and so on. And I'm delighted to introduce Udo Steingraeber, who is our guest today. And those of you who were at our last webinar were with Cesar Canyon. He sung the praises of going and visiting while he was a stipendiat last year, the Steingraeber factory and salon, and getting to meet the people there. And I think he even got to play on one of the pianos there. And he spoke about that, and he just was starry-eyed at his trip to Bayreuth and really enjoyed it. And I can't think of a better candidate to have sent there. So I met Udo, I think it was almost 2 years ago when he was visiting the Bay Area, and he was at R. Kassman Pianos. And they were doing a demonstration of the magnificent Steingraeber piano. We had Daniel Glover, who played the piano, and then Udo shared some absolutely wonderful lore about the history of this very noted manufacturer of exquisite pianos, exquisite musical instruments that are the favored piano of many illustrious people. And we'll hear a little bit about that today. Robin Sutherland was also there. I don't think Robin played on the Steingraeber, did he? He played.
He did.
Oh, okay, he did.
It was the last time I saw him.
Yeah, I know. And unfortunately, he's in Valhalla now, and we're very sad about that. He also played another piano downstairs and played some Bach, I think it was. It seems like 100 years ago that this happened. And that's when I met Udo. And his personality, as you folks will realize when you hear his presentation, he was just so jovial and so lively. I said, well, you come visit here every once in a while. Next time, maybe you can come and speak to the Wagner Society. Well, next time didn't quite happen yet. So we're doing it virtually today. So I was also met his wife, Delia, and this was just a wonderful experience. And so we're so delighted to have him here today. So I'm going to, at this point in time, turn this program. I'm going to disappear, everybody. I'm not going to disappear everybody. I'm going to disappear, and I'm going to turn this program over to our guest today. So welcome, Udo.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you very much. That was indeed, the meeting was end of January 2020 at Kassman Piano. And that was my personal last trip, which I did. Since then, we've got this awful Corona time. Welcome, everybody. We passed a very beautiful spring day today. So welcome in spring, and I hope you can enjoy today after this Wagner excursion, a very nice spring in San Francisco as well. Only a few sentences to the situation of the world before I start with the Wagner and the pianos and the Rococo Hall you are seeing behind me. We really smell the Ukraine war every day. We hear it by the American aircrafts flying over Bayreuth every night, because we are exactly under the straight line from Ramstein US Air Base to the Ukraine, to Lviv and Kiev. And we have only 600 kilometers. This is a scary situation, and hopefully, let's hope everything is terminating soon. We'll have a Ukraine-Russian meeting during the festival this year. Probably you know that last year we had a new production of Flying Dutchman at the Bayreuth Festspielhaus in the Bayreuth Festival, and that was the first appearance of a female conductor in Bayreuth. So there were several before, but not conducting officially, only as an assistant, like Simon Young 30 years ago. But this was Oksana Lviv, and she is coming from the Ukraine, and she did her performance in the production of a Russian director. So hopefully, as it works in arts, it will work within the nations soon as well. But let's go now to the Rococo Hall. I'm welcoming you here at the historic Steingraeber house. This hall welcomed already guests from Franz, Liszt, Richard Wagner, to let's tell you about some Americans like George London, for example, the first director of a Wagner Ring production in Seattle in the 1980s, I think. But when he was in Bayreuth, that was in the 50s, he was here. I can show you. Here is one of the old guest books, starting of all the guests who were here. Here, for example, Siegfried Wagner and Karl Muck. And here we've got George London, who was rehearsing here many years, and he was he loved our pianos like many others. We are sure we are represented with our pianos in the Bayreuth Festspielhaus and many other opera houses. My ancestor Edward, he bought this house here, which is called Steingraeber House today, in the year 1872. But then it was already 120 years old. It dates back to the Bayreuth Rococo time. And all the visitors of Bayreuth will realize that not Wagner is the first impression in this city. It's really the buildings, the castles, the gardens, with all the fountains and the installations of the Baroque and Rococo era in the 18th century. And this house was the Prime Minister's residence. And that's why we have a historic concert hall. That's a Rococo hall here. I can show you a little bit when I turn this up. The decoration, like in the castles of that time. And what you're seeing at the side here is the Liszt piano, where Franz Liszt was playing with his friends, with his colleagues. He performed 2 times in 1878 and 1882. He performed here for the public, but mostly he used this hall as a saloon. You know, Wagner came 1872 to Bayreuth, and Liszt came 1872 to Bayreuth as well, terminating a 10 years break of communication within the 2 friends, because Liszt didn't really like Wagner's liaison with Cosima, and that he married Cosima because he had a deep friendship with Hans von Bülow as well. But Edward, my great-great-grand uncle, he was really happy to meet Franz Liszt again, because he was working for him in Vienna many years before, in 1846. That was the pelerinage time of the young piano technician Edward Steingraeber, who learned his business in his father's and in his uncle's workshop. So our piano history, of the piano maker Steingraeber, the Steingraeber family dates back really to 1820. So we are, there's only one piano manufacturer, that's Sauter, who is 1 year older, but from the high-end pianos, we are the very oldest piano manufacturer from history, not from thinking. But I will tell you later what we are doing today. But to tell you the story from Vienna in 1846, the young Edward Steingraeber was at the Streicher factory, one of the most famous piano manufacturers of that time. Nanette Streicher was the manufacturer for Beethoven. Her father, Andreas Stein, was the piano manufacturer for Mozart. So it was a place to go to learn more and to complete the mastership in the profession. And Edward was obviously not so bad in his knowledges that he had to go for the servicings of concerts of Franz Liszt. And later, in a speech of 1902 for the 50th anniversary of the Bayreuth Manufactory, he told the story that these were the toughest times in his professional life when he had to stand near the stage of Liszt, where they had put 3 Streicher pianos, because they knew that Liszt was breaking strings, breaking keys, breaking hammer shanks, and detune awfully the pianos within playing. You must imagine that was the time, 1846, where already the B minor sonata was written. But the fragile, these very light old pianos had to withstand the attack of a man who had already envisioned the modern piano. So Edward had to repair the pianos because 3 were not sufficient mostly. So when the 3rd one was broken as well, Edward had to go on the stage, repair the hammer shanks, the keys, the strings, restring the missing notes. And the worst thing he said was that Liszt didn't quit the scene and didn't went out of the room. He was standing nearby impatiently. So that was a good reason for Edward in the 1870s to discuss with Liszt to make better pianos. He had already some experience because in 1852, he founded the factory here in Bayreuth, and for that he had to present a masterpiece at a commission in that time in Hof, not far away from here, not the city in Upper Franconia, where we are located. And this was a combination of the most modern pianos of that time, the English action combined with a Viennese action, the rim like a Broadwood piano from London, the reinforcements like a Ra piano from Paris. That piano is still here. It's close to me, nearby in the next room, and you can still perform on it and even make recordings on it. So he was right in improving pianos, and that is our thinking up today, that pianos should never stand still. Even our preferred pieces are very often dating back to the 18th or 19th century. Our ears and our feelings are changing, so we must adapt our work all the time, from the very beginning of our craftsmanship. In that time, Wagner approached Edward as well. And he asked for a very special piano. I can show you. I went to our safe today to put some letters which never quit our releases. This is the invitation written by Cosima Wagner to invite Edward Steingraeber to speak about the construction design of a new instrument. Probably you asked yourself already what's behind me. It's not Rococo. It's some unknown harp in a very special shape, but you will instantly know what is the instrument for. Hopefully you see me and you hear me. So this was the morning bell of the Holy Grail for your Sunday morning. The original instrument is a little bit different. It has a mechanics, an action in front of the strings that is still in use in the Bayreuth Festspielhaus. But this is stronger. That dates back from 1914, when the Parsifal was free to be played everywhere. That was a good job for Steingraeber to build not only pianos but bells of the Holy Grail as well. There are a lot of letters with Wagner family and Richard Wagner, and I should show you two things of our archives. And for these I must wear gloves. This is the original business card from Mr. Wagner, and it's very astonishing. Look here. You see, he didn't think that it's necessary to put on his business card an address. He was expecting, when you wished to write him a letter in the 1870s, let's say from New York, you only have to write on the envelope Richard Wagner. It will go straight to Bayreuth and reach him in the Rennweg in the Villa Warnfried. So that was the kind of thinking Mr. Wagner had. On the back side of this card is the first order of a piano. Mr. Steingraeber, please send one piano for the rehearsals. That was in 1875, and from that time on we are working for the Bayreuth Festival, and we have lots of singers, conductors, and the musical assistant here to rehearse, especially last year with all these COVID restrictions. It was awful in the Bayreuth Festspielhaus. When you left the house for re-entering, you had to make a new test. And that's why our house was always crowded with the singers and the musical assistants, because here they had only to go for one test per day and not per every hour. This is the last letter Richard Wagner was sending to Edward Steingraeber, and it is praising his pianos, okay, but what's interesting is the date. It is the 25th of December 1881. This is the official, not the real, but his official finalizing day of the opera Parsifal. And it was written from Palermo, where he went over the Christmas days for vacation together with his family. And it was the birthday of Cosima. So it is a really special thing that he found the time to write to piano maker, his tuner, his piano supplier, on such a day where he finished this opera, which was like a testimonial of his whole life and a new way of musical impression with a unendliche Melodie. I think this term you understand in German as well. Here in this area, Wagner even lived. He was a neighbor of Steingraeber, living just opposite to the factory before Wahnfried was built and Wahnfried was ready. That created some problems in the very beginning, some problems with Cosima, because she complained at the city mail. Steingraeber is loud, Steingraeber is starting too early working, and Steingraeber is sometimes stinking. But the city mayor didn't pursue Steingraeber. He simply didn't care about that letter. The time with Liszt here in that hall really started not in 1872, but in 1878. That was a time Wagner started to write his composition Parsifal. And that was a time he didn't allow his father-in-law anymore to play the piano in Wahnfried. He didn't want to be disturbed. And that's why Franz Liszt needed a salon. Every artist in that time, in the 19th century, needed a salon to meet his friends, to meet his partners, to meet his competitors, to exchange the new works, to play for each other, and to develop their artistic knowledges. And that's why Franz Liszt is very much linked to this house. And we were really lucky that we could purchase 2 years ago the world's largest collection of historic photographs of Franz Liszt. We simply, frankly speaking, normally I wouldn't have bought it because couldn't have afforded, but we had so many international fairs not taking place and so many events that our marketing budget really left an important amount to have now the world's largest exhibition of Franz Liszt photographs. And our marketing manager, Maren, will make some clicks now. I'm happy she's here and helps me because I'm mostly destroying. Okay. Ernst Burger, he's a collector, he's a pianist, and he is still active, but elderly person now. So he looked for someone who wished to make his collection accessible for the public. And you see at the left side, it's starting in 1843 with a daguerreotypie. Mr. Daguerre, a Frenchman, was the inventor of photography in 1842. That's incredible. 1 year after the invention of photography, Liszt was already as one of the first persons alive. Mostly these daguerreotypies, these early photographs were taken from buildings or landscapes because people were not allowed to move for a very long time to take a photograph. The very first one, as far as I know, was Constanze Mozart, the widow of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And so we have 9 different periods in the life of Franz Liszt. Many of the photographs are signed or even commented. And here, by the way, on the right side, you see the new bridge we have from the main house, the historic house, to the side building and our modern chamber concert hall. So then this is a very large photograph. It's an original from 1867 with a non-published sheet of music on the right side below. So the 1871 and 1875 period is in front of the Rococo Hall. So at the place where he arrived in that time for the first time. And this is the last chamber, which is going from the late 1870s to his last year, 1886. And there in the middle, a very small photograph. This is the very last photograph which was taken and exists. It was a snapshot, very unusual in this time already, a snapshot where he's leaving the church, one in Luxembourg, where he was 1 week before he went to Bayreuth to be with Cosima Wagner to make the first, she did the first Tristan production in the Bayreuth Festspielhaus, and as you know, he didn't survive this last stay. Okay, let's go back to the Rococo Hall, which is, by the way, linked to more than Liszt or Wagner. It's the house here and the street is linked to 5 composers. And this is showing that Bayreuth is by far more than only a Festspiel city and a Wagner city. First of all, it is dedicated to the composer Margravine Wilhelmine of Bayreuth. She ruled Bayreuth as a princess of Prussia, together with her husband Friedrich, from 1739 to 59. And in that time, she built Bayreuth as an Arcadia of the late Baroque, of the Rococo. And she was famous as a painter and as a composer as well. She even composed an opera. And she left us 3 very important historic gardens. She left several castles and all the ambience you can enjoy until today in Bayreuth. But just opposite to this window, there lived a very famous writer in that time, and he was the influencer of Robert Schumann, the composer Robert Schumann. That was Jean-Paul Friedrich Richter, and he was in his time more famous than Goethe. So Johann Wolfgang von Goethe is always considered as being the most important writer of the time of German tongue, but Jean-Paul was on the same level at the time, and he was more joking around. He was more fantastic. And he influenced, for example, the Papillon from Robert Schumann. And when he died, Robert Schumann was only 16, but just the week after his final exam at the high school, with 18 in 1828, he was 1 week just opposite here to study in the library of his beloved writer. He was allowed by the widow to be there as a youngster. He was already famous as a pianist. But this street is even linked to Mozart. You wouldn't believe, but Anna Thekla Mozart, the cousin of Wolfgang Amadeus, lived in the Friedrichstraße, 4 houses away from here, for more than 30 years. Anna Thekla was a poor figure in this story a little bit, but she had a wonderful love affair with her cousin in the early 70s. But you can imagine Wolfgang Amadeus was not very reliable in that concern. So he quitted her, came back after 1 year, but to Augsburg to her, but only for a very short period again. So he made her very unhappy. So she did never marry, but one day she was pregnant by her priest, and she had a girl. And this girl married to Bayreuth, the postman of Bayreuth, and she took her mother from Augsburg. So Mrs. Mozart went from Augsburg to Bayreuth, and this is the Mozart link of our city. So many stories around, but probably you would like to hear a little bit about pianos as well. So I cannot go to the factory right now together with you. I can tell you, if you wish to have a virtual tour through our factory, simply click on Steingraeber DE, and you will have on the front page the possibility to click into a 15 minutes guided tour through the historical house and through all the factory rooms. We do not hide anything, and you will hear in the background the famous pianist, the French pianist Cyprien Casaris, with the Chopin Concerto number 2, played on the Steingraeber. Probably you remember that Casaris was doing in the 1990s in Carnegie Hall the huge Chopin Jubilee concert. I told you in the very beginning this morning that Edward was a very modern thinking man of his time, who took all the ideas from the artists, from not only from Liszt, but from Stavenhagen or Gendalbert, Richard Strauss. So there is a chain of commentators on his pianos. He did it, and we do it today as well. Invite many concertists to play here and to enter into a dialogue about improving pianos. And probably you have the evolution of pianos a little bit in mind. It was more than 300 years ago, Bartolomeo Cristofori invented in Florence, in Italy, the piano. And then in the first 70 years, it had absolutely no success. It needed Mozart to make a push with his, from the 1880s on, with a large piano concertos to make some public relation for this still new instrument. And then the god of pianos came, Beethoven, and with Beethoven, the 19th century started being a piano century. And the success was incredible. The piano makers belong to the first industrialized factories, and the virtuosos in the US, Louis Moreau Gottschalk, for example, or in Europe, Franz Liszt or Thalberg, they all earned a lot of money, and they went round the world of these days with the cottages, but every day another place and another hall. And the halls extended from around the first piano recital ever, solo recital, was in Weimar in a hall of 200 seats in the year 1838. 50 years later, an average hall had 2,000 seats. It was up to 4,000. So there was a kind of development for the piano, which was not only good because it was extended to be quicker, louder, and that was considered being better. It was not always better, what the evolution brought in this time. For example, the composers from Beethoven to Chopin had pianos with 6 pedals. They had registers. They could enter different rooms of musical speech. They could express by far more musical ideas, sonic developments within their interpretation. And all that was a little bit lost when the piano became modern, starting with the 1850s and ending by the end of the 19th century. Then the piano in his nowadays form was completed and had only 3 pedals, 88 notes, was mostly black, and didn't change very much since then. Most of the pianos today are looking alike. But artists are not alike to others. And they have more ideas than only for 3 pedals, 88 notes. And the development of the piano music, when we are going a little bit back in history again, 19th century was the century of the piano, I'm sure. That was, it started with Beethoven, it ended with Brahms in Germany. Then it was at an end in Germany. By the way, I think that was Wagner in Germany and Verdi in Italy, who destroyed the tradition of piano compositions in German-speaking and Italian-speaking countries. After Wagner, all the composers didn't, and after Brahms, except a little bit Reger, didn't make huge efforts anymore with a piano. They wanted to write operas. But piano music went to Russia and to France, to Czech Republic. Wonderful music from Scriabin to Dvořák, to Debussy, Ravel, Poulenc, and there it still was alive until the First World War. After the First World War, there was a research. Think about Charles Ives. Charles Ives was looking for quarter tone piano music. He wrote the quarter tone pieces. He wanted to extend again the variations of piano music. There was a development of microtone music. There was a development of the first electronic music, the first Bechstein piano in the 1930s without soundboard, but with electronic adapters, or the double piano from Fürsten. All that seems to me today like the last attempt, which was destroyed to the wars, by the wars and by Hitler, by Stalin, who destroyed all the arts in Europe in the 1930s. And then after the Second World War, there was a lot of electronic music. There was again a trial to extend the piano sounds. Think about John Cage, sonatas and interludes for prepared piano. That was the time, like finalizing the last song on an old story about a nice instrument who brought out a lot of wonderful pieces, but now it's at an end. And it is no joke. It is true that Steingraeber, personally, I got a request in the 1990s to deliver a piano for the International Ferienkurse für Musik in Darmstadt. So the international holiday seminars for contemporary composition in Darmstadt, one of the most famous places of the globe for the reunion of contemporary composers. And they did an exhibition in 1999, 50 years after Second World War, Ferienkurse. And the part of the piano was an installation. And Steingraeber was asked to deliver the piano for the last composition on a piano. And it was called the Suspended Piano. And the piano was hanging from a ceiling down, not playable anymore. Fortunately, in the years 2000, young composers came back again to the piano. And we are getting more and more requests. I can tell you, during Corona time, thanks to our two concert halls, there was, even from this hall, there was 3 streamings by in New York, streaming form, it was Boris Giltberg, Liszt de la Salle, and Martin Stadtfeld. It was called Dream Stage, New York. But there were more composers with us as well, making experiments with our new transducer piano, with our Sordino, with our Mozart rail. All these, when you're playing the piano, you don't know these names, these expressions. You can learn more again from our website about that, and you have sure even samples what we are where these pianos are played. That is incredible what they have created in new sound aspects. Transducer piano means that vibrators, which are in every loudspeaker, are sitting on the soundboard, who is used as a membrane, as a loudspeaker, and you can play with your 10 fingers the same time in 3 different levels: live acoustic, live electronics, and you can add recorded electronics, pre-recorded electronics. So this is the very modern side we are doing. And then, Steingraeber is a very, very old-fashioned manufacturer. So we have very traditional workshops, but we are trying to add always these old functions as well, because that belongs to the tradition and being old-fashioned as well, creating and old things anew. And one of the most important ones is the Sordino. When you play a Schubert score, and you have an original edition, for example, Urtext, Vienna, then you can read from time to time FP. That means you should play forte and piano at the same time, at the same moment, on the same note. Okay, that's impossible, but it is possible. It was possible in the Schubert time, because you have to press the Sordino pedal, or in Paris, they called it with Pleyel and Hera, the Pedal Celeste, the heavens pedal, or in Vienna, they called it Moderato. You press a pedal, strip of felt or a strip of leather. It is going in between, the gap in between the string and the hammer, and then you can strike a forte, but you are muffled by a leather strip. And this is FP. So all the Steingraeber concert grands are nowadays equipped with that new function. Smaller grands can be equipped as well. Mozart rail, what's that? Can you imagine that's a key dip? So that's a way you have to press down the key until you reach a note, was only 6 millimeter. That means lightness, that means quickness, that means easy glissandi, and that means another approach to the keyboard. Beethoven complained about his English era piano with 8 millimeters. He wanted to get the key dip of Vienna in the year 1804 with 7 millimeters only. And Brahms still played with 8 millimeters. That's then when you play the Paganini variations, you understand when you are very, very frustrated by getting the notes in the right way with 8 millimeters, it's easier. So we can equip every Steingraeber piano with these different key dips today, that you can approach your Scarlatti or your Rameau, Couperin, Johann Sebastian Bach, but Beethoven as well, with key tips in between 8 and 10.3 millimeter. 10.3 millimeters are the nowadays key tip. So I talked a lot about pianos, and we are right at an end already. Time is going on very quickly, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about Bayreuth Wagner Festival as well. Last year we had a great one. You know, we had a break in 2020. In 2020, there was only open air. In 2021, there was supposed to be a new tetralogy, a new Ring of the Nibelungen, but it couldn't take place. So they did the whole ring within one day. And I can tell you, that was a very, very special experience. And I have a little slideshow to give you a little impression what you missed last year when you have not been here. So thank you, Maren, for helping me to put this on. So I told you, one day, the whole ring, not 16 hours, but let's around 6 hours. And the idea was to make the ring a real ring, and to start with the Rheingold, not with the real opera theme Rheingold, but at the end of the Twilight of the Gods. It starts on as a courtyard. Loge, because he burned the world, is standing in front of the court, and was heißt jetzt Richter? The judge is Erda. You are seeing Erda in the backyard, and the Rhine daughters are the Zeugen, witnesses. Thank you. She's my souffleuse now. I'm getting rid of my English right now. Sorry. When you know Bayreuth, you know that it is within a huge garden, and in the garden there's a tiny little lake. And these 3 Rhine daughters were really in the lake, and it was open air. And here you see Loge, who is in front of Erda. In the rear, you see one of the singers for the Rhine daughters, because the Rhine daughters didn't sing themselves. They had singers which were not taking a bath in the water, in the little lake. But that was really an inspiring beginning of a ring day. In the afternoon. So that's the end. In the afternoon, there was a Valkyrie in the Festspielhaus taking place, but they couldn't make a real performance. The soloists were standing alla rampa, and it was no scenery in a traditional way, but it was a clean, white room offered in the very, very beginning. And you could see only a lot of some seats and a lot of color containers, little ones, standing around. And then a big orgiastic color play started. The singers in front, all dressed in black, the orchestra playing right normal. It was always like commented by a constantly changing scenery done by 10 how should I call them? Painters. They were assistants of the Austrian sculptor Hermann Nitsch. He was very, very famous in the 1960s and 70s, and he did that installation with his assistants. You see them in their white clothing, and you see them on top of the walls as well. So they were putting the colors from the top to the down, and five from the top and five from the scene itself. So colors from both sides, from red to gray to black to white again. And from time to time, you had the impression sitting down, oh, this command is really, the red is, you can imagine, the red is in second act when, or end of the first act, when Siegmund and Sieglinde are meeting each other. This is second act. The blood is running down already. Hunding is not dead already, but it's coming close. And then in the breaks you could go for Siegfried. You could be part of a virtual dragon fight in the Bayreuth Festspielhaus. And this was created by an American scientist, professor, and stage designer as well. Probably you know Jay Scheib. Jay Scheib, he is professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and he will be next year in 2023 the stage designer and the director of the new Parsifal production. And then when you are coming next year to this new production, you will enter the Bayreuth Spectators Hall with glasses, with a special headset for augmented reality. And this was Jay Scheib's first trial, and I participated in it, and I can tell you, I was putting on the headset. I was instantly in the foyer, so in the entrance of the Bayreuth Festspielhaus. It was incredibly realistic. And I went in, and the dragon was coming towards me, and then a hint was written in the screen, and I was told, take the sword on the left side. I took the sword, and then I had a fight of 2 or 3 minutes, and then at the end it was dead. Afterwards, I heard I was screaming, I was shouting, everybody was laughing on me. I was totally behaving like an idiot. Fortunately, my wife was at that time absent for getting some sausages, the famous Bayreuth sausages. So it is a real experience. So what I experienced was a real virtual reality. What you will experience with the new Parsifal next year will be an augmented reality, where you get a mix-up in between real stage designs and additional ones. Okay, this year we'll have 5. No, I must tell you the end of the day as well. Here, yeah. This is the very last second in the life of a dragon before he gets my sword into his neck. And afterwards, you could go to the twilight of the god, to the Götterdämmerung, which was like the Norns in the first act of the Götterdämmerung, having their thread, and the thread is endless, and it is not telling anything, any truth anymore. So this is the whole ring of the Nibelungen within one day. This year we will get a real new ring of the Nibelungen, and astonishing, we'll get a fifth, so 4 operas, new production, and a fifth one, it will be Tristan and Isolde, new production as well, and additionally several open airs, a Tristan open air, and Bayreuth is trying from this year on to be a little bit like Glyndebourne. I'm sure you know Glyndebourne, which was built from Busch, who was thrown out from the Nazis from Germany, built as a second Bayreuth in England, in the south of Kent. Glyndebourne is well known for the picnics, and Bayreuth will have its picnics as well, like you have in England. So hopefully we meet again in Bayreuth here. When you are here, there are guidances through the factories. All the rooms are open for you to play on the many pianos. And when the bell of the Holy Grail is here, you are allowed to strike it as well. Tomorrow it must go to the Historic Museum in Berlin. They will open an exhibition in the German Historic Museum. So it's a must when you are going to Berlin the next few months until autumn, until September. There is an exhibit, Richard Wagner und das deutsche Gefühl. Richard Wagner and the German feeling. I hope not the German Angst. And with that recommendation, I end my little way through pianos and Rococo and Wagner and Liszt. And I invite you, if you have any questions left, I'm here for you. But I think I went already too long with my little lecture. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for inviting me, and have a good spring day.
Okay, well, I have a couple, and thank you so much, Udo. That was really quite wonderful. Wonderful stories. I mean, I was taking notes rapidly here. That's a lot of history there that you covered. We've got a couple questions out in our chat right now, and the first one that came up right away, right when we were starting, is from Randall Chu. Hello, Udo. What makes Steingraeber pianos unique? For instance, can you tell us about the hammers and the felts? And do the pianos have a characteristic, distinctive sound? Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Randall.
Thank you, Randall. That is really a very important question, because I didn't talk about our characteristics. Towards the end of the 19th century, all the piano manufacturers tried to make the pianos huge with the sound and to imitate an entire orchestra. The orchestral romantic sound of the pianos. The most important representatives of this very fortunate kind of piano development were Steinway and Bösendorf. In Bayreuth, we were probably a little bit educated by not only by Liszt, but by the singers, by the composers, by the chamber musicians, to care more for other qualities as well. And that means polyphonic separation of the sound must be possible. Colors are so important. and that colors are changing in the dynamic range of a tone, that you can express different characters. Piano music should not be considered differently than opera. And you know, in opera, there is not only love and sentiment, there is hate and murder as well. So what you must express, and that is one of the major things we are trying to care for, is to have very smooth tones and variations, but very harsh ones as well. Piano maker must be courageous enough that his pianos can reproduce awful sounds as well, because murder and hate and cabale is awful, and it must represent love as well.
Can't forget love. Thank you. We've got a question from Karen Gabrielson. Is it possible to have a virtual tour of the photo collection? Any plans for this collection travel to art museums? And she references the wonderful Legion of Honor in San Francisco. Thank you, Karen.
Karen, this is a work in progress. We were just finishing our installation. We did all the panels you saw, all the fixings. They are all done by the piano makers in the workshops, and we can't afford the time now to complete it really like we wish to do it. I hope we can do it this year. These Corona times brought us, but all the piano manufacturers, I think, a lot of customers. People are more at home. There were a lot of former piano players who found back their hobby from former times. So I have to confess, business is doing well. And that's why Liszt is a little bit behind momentarily. At the end, I hope at the latest next year, you will not only have a virtual tour of this exhibit, but you can download the major photos as well. That's the plan. When we will achieve, I cannot promise it yet.
Well, thank you. That's really wonderful. We've got a question from Deborah Marion. She says, thank you so much. This was a great presentation. The question now is, what is the Celeste pedal on the piano?
The Celeste pedal was especially used in Paris in the time of Chopin. So you should consider that it is Chopin included it in his compositions. The slide in I explained before is expressively in a small, very fine, weak leather strip from the Ara and the Pape and the Pleyel and all the pianos in Paris in the years 1820, 1830, up to 1840. From 1840 on, it's disappearing. This little felt is vibrating. When you strike the hammer, it's vibrating in between the string and the hammer. And it makes a zzz, some sizzling sound, which is not really muffling like the felt in Vienna, but which is giving a certain external sound, which is not supposed to be in a piano.
Okay. Okay, well, I hope that answers the question. We have a question now from Marianne Cella. How many pianos do you make each year, and how many craftsmen are employed in so doing? And then finally, what countries sell your pianos? And we'll definitely say the United States, because we have a piano purveyor of exquisite high-end pianos in Berkeley at our Craftsman Pianos. So anyway, how many pianos are you making? How long does it?
Yeah, a tiny little
Mike-
manufacturer who is working in a very handcrafting, artisanal way. In the workshops, there are 24 colleagues. In total, we are 35. We are producing around 100 pianos per year. And when from time to time, we are achieving 110, probably 120. This year, we have good chances because we achieved to get some new associates. That's a little bit the competition in between the manufacturers to get the good makers who are available in Europe to their place. So recently we were so lucky to get some, but we could, if there is a talented piano technician who wishes to get some experiences in Germany, please come and work with us.
Oh goodness, that's quite the offer. About how many hours does it take to build a piano on average?
To tell it in hours doesn't tell the real truth.
No.
The time we need is without drying down the wood, for example. That's before, and that's done in our premises as well. But when we start, we need for the smallest upright piano, we need a minimum of 6 months. And for the largest grand piano, we need a time of 14 months. That's a concert grand. When I calculated in hours what's necessary for the price, we have approximately for the smallest piano 140 hours, and for the concert grand 650 hours.
Wow. We have a comment from Rick Overton. He says, these pianos come to me in perfect condition. Amazing company to work with. So
that has a little bit to do that we have majoring chambers in our factory. We learned a lot with our international customers. That climate at the American East Coast, for example, where we have dealers in Washington and nearby New York and in California, are very, very different. And this is very different to Texas and to Chicago. We have to care, for example, for the East Coast, very dry climate in winter time and very humid in summertime. California is easier, but imagine Singapore. We have a very good dealer in Singapore. There are more than 250 Steingraeber pianos already sold, but they have 80% humidity with around 26 to 30 degrees Celsius. That is very tough for wood, and so we are majoring the pianos in Bayreuth, climatizing cabins, drying cabins, desert climate. We once delivered a piano to Santa Fe, and we had a very, very special experience. We delivered the piano by special demand of the client with a mammoth keyboard cover that is equivalent to the ivory of elephants, but it is not prohibited because mammoth is an old material. So our piano concert grand could withstand the climate. There was no problem. The soundboard with its screws was working and everything. So our climatization was working, but we didn't care for the climatization of the mammoth. We didn't have enough experience. And within half a year, it was totally cracked. So he sent back the keyboard to Germany, and we replaced the key tops by mineral ones. which we have normally today.
Oh, absolutely fascinating. We've got a question here. Oh, someone was asking, where is Rick's studio? Rick Overton, and that's Castman Pianos.
That's in Berkeley.
It's in Berkeley. It's kind of in North Berkeley, but yeah, you just look them up online. I'll send you the information. Randall.
Yes, and there's a very nice brewery right across the street.
Yeah.
So that's worth going as well.
843 Gilman Street, Berkeley, California. There's your answer there. Absolute from the horse's mouth there. It's really been, do we have any more questions, folks? I don't want to cut this short if people still have questions. It is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful store. They have lots of exquisite pianos in there. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Cesar Cañon, who visited you last year, our stipendiate, said that you're working with carbon fiber now. Is that what's going on with that?
Yes. As I explained, I couldn't explain everything because of innovations we are doing. So we are always keen on making experiments with new material to improve pianos as well from that side. So I cannot tell you that a carbon fiber soundboard is a real improvement sound-wise, because a wooden one is sounding better. That's the truth, and there is no chance, as far as we could tell you now with our knowledge from now, with that carbon fiber which is available now, you can produce soundboards as you can violin bows and violins and guitars. All of this is existing. It's climate resistant. When we are supplying open air festivals, and when the piano cannot be taken in-house during the night, and if this is for several weeks, you have rain days, you have cold days, you have hot days, you have sunshine. There, a carbon fiber soundboard is a perfect solution. And when you need a piano for your boat to go around the world, I would recommend you not only to take a Steingraeber with a carbon fiber soundboard, but to take our carbon fiber action as well, and that will make all world resistant piano.
That's a tall order. I'm wondering, how have you received a request for a carbon fiber for a boat, yes. A yacht?
Sure.
My goodness. Okay.
There on every ocean steamer there are lots of pianos, and most of them need constant servicings. With a carbon fiber soundboard, it's not so necessary. By the way, we are even using material for our concert grand lids, which is extremely light. It's used normally in the equipment of aircrafts, okay, where you have to save weight, and probably you have the experience made already that lids of concert grands are extremely heavy today, and most of the ladies are not able anymore to open their concert grand piano because it is around 65 kilo. Ours is only 25, and that vibrates the aftertone longer, and that makes a projection of the sound to the room richer. Like in the 19th century, the light board lids, which they had in this time.
Wow. One of our guests, John Walco has commented, from the Calvary Church in San Francisco, we love our new Steingraeber from Cassman. The C212 is perfect for chamber music in our chapel.
Thank you so much. Nice to hear that. And I can tell you, the predecessor of your piano in your church is the Liszt piano. Most of our construction designs from today are having a heritage in the past. So we are not working like the colleagues, Steinway, who preserve the original construction design. We always develop, but the original is still contained in the modern one.
Interesting. One of our guests, one of our participants who's now left the webinar, had told me just a couple days ago that she is in a church where they have Steingraeber piano, and she said, we don't have a big budget for our music program, and an angel helped us have this magnificent piece in their church. She didn't tell me where she was, though. But anyway,
there is one on a very famous place. I cannot tell you the name of the church, but it is right in the view of the White House in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
At the street, only 1 mile from the White House, and it is like a crystal palace. It's a very amazing and impressive church. I have been there, and it's a shame that I don't remember the name right now. But I think you can find it on the website. If you want to know it, you can give me an email and ask me. Udo.Steingraeber@steingraeber.de.
Wonderful. Can I ask you to do something? Now, this is from me, just because, I'm the leader here. Can you play the bells again?
Sure.
Ball bells.
Yes. Please? Let's terminate that session with Parzival. Good.
That would be a wonderful segue. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will just say a couple things for our members here. I wanted to let people know a few things that are coming up. Thank you, Udo. It was absolutely a joy to be with you today. Okay, so from our members, our next meeting is going to be in person. We're going back to live meetings. And we'll be at the JCCSF, our old stomping grounds. We'll have Jonathan Kuhner and Franz, an introduction to No Love Allowed, that's Das Liebesverbot by Pocket Opera. Now, we're going to ask that people register because we have a room limitation of 50 people. And so we'll be asking you to reserve a spot for that. And so that'll be coming in your email soon. We're going to have a live Richard Wagner birthday celebration on May 22nd, which is Wagner's birthday. This is going to be an event also by reservation only. It'll be a little bit less formal banquet. And I'll give you the information later when we get all the details settled, because the place I've selected, which is a beer hall, it's appropriate for Wagner. It's going to be on May 22nd, Ricard's birthday, and it will follow the San Francisco performance of No Love Allowed by Pocket Opera. So we'll have enough time for people to, if they go to the performance, to get over to the beer hall for some dinner. It'll be informal, and you'll be getting more information about that. One last thing that we don't have a slide for, I got this information just today. The Wagner Society of Munich, in cooperation with the Richard Wagner Verband International, is having a benefit concert to help the Ukraine on March 22nd. And it's going to be coming live from Munich via Zoom. I will be sending out the information on how to sign up. It's a donation of 20 euro to go to this benefit concert, which will be streamed live. And I'll get the information over to you. All of the money, all of the people who are going to be singing and all the musicians and so on are donating their time in order that 100% of this money go to help those people in need in the Ukraine. So be looking for two announcements coming probably this afternoon after I shut down the show here. So thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. We're here because of you. We're here for you. And we're delighted you were able to attend this webinar today. I found it even more interesting than I had anticipated after having met Udo in some time back in person. I knew that you guys would be as delighted as I would to enjoy having him here as a guest. And I will certainly ask him if he will be able to come and visit us in person next time his transit takes him here to the San Francisco Bay Area. So until our next webinar, folks, thank you for attending today. And we'll see you at the recital hall or the concert hall soon and in person next month.